Hey everybody, welcome to the first This Week in Clinical AI. Now, we have asked the folks at John Oliver's show whether we can change the title to Last Week Tonight in Clinical AI, but they haven't gotten back to us. We'll keep you posted so we can come up with a more interesting title. Anyway, today we're going to go through three topics, three of the most interesting topics in clinical AI news from the past week. The first topic is an interview with the president of the American Medical Association, Dr. Jesse Ehrenfeld. This interview with Dr. Ehrenfeld asked about his views on ChatGPT and its potential impacts on healthcare. Dr. Ehrenfeld noted that there are potential upsides and possible risks of this technology. That's not news. Dr. Ehrenfeld noted that it could aid clinical efficiency. It might help with medical education. That's not really news either. Dr. Ehrenfeld raised concerns about misinformation. We share those concerns about misuse and misinformation that could be generated through generative AI. But the other thing Dr. Ehrenfeld said that was interesting and provocative is that, quote, if I lose a patient because of an algorithm, that is the inherent question of liability for physicians, and where the liability is placed, how it is managed, has a particular importance in healthcare. Dr. Ehrenfeld went on to say, quote, we think that the liability ought to be placed with the people who are best positioned to mitigate the harm, and that is likely going to be the developer, the implementer, whoever buys these things, often not the end user, the clinician, unquote. That drove news. It's not a surprising view from the head of the American Medical Association, but something sure to be debated in coming years. Overall, without surprise, Dr. Ehrenfeld urges an open yet cautious approach as AI advances. Patient care should drive innovation. AI's role in healthcare needs transparent debate involving all stakeholders. Second topic today, combining human expertise with artificial intelligence. Dr. Ehrenfeld, in his interview, talked about the opportunity to combine AI's capabilities with the capabilities of physicians and how that could ideally drive the best possible outcomes, the best possible medicine for patients. An interesting paper was released earlier this week, however. We will link to it. And this paper actually takes a contrary opinion. I shouldn't say an opinion. Their findings, the researchers' findings in this paper are that AI and humans might not work so well together right now in trying to achieve optimal diagnoses. So this paper examined how AI and machine learning can be applied to improve the accuracy of medical diagnoses, and it focused on human-AI collaboration in radiology. The findings of the paper are that it's not so simple to combine human radiologists and AI. Doctors can neglect or they can misuse advice provided by the AI algorithm. In many cases, the paper found, either the human or the AI alone makes the optimal diagnosis. Together, they often take longer and they make mistakes. So this reveals the need for systems and those of us that create AI-enabled systems to understand how humans think. It requires us to account for biases like relying too much on AI or biases that will lead human beings to not trust it enough. I thought it was really interesting. The authors found that, quote, diagnostic quality increases when the AI is confident, meaning that the predicted probability is close to 0, the AI has very little confidence, or it's close to 1, the AI has great confidence in its prediction. But the diagnostic quality decreased when the AI's confidence level was not close to 0 or close to 1. The paper also found that human beings had decreased quality for patient cases in which the participants were more certain. So a physician's certainty level actually decreased quality when they were also presented with AI evidence. In sum, we think this means that with the right approach, humans and AI can play to each other's strengths. But right now, this study found that the majority of cases that it looked at were optimally decided either by the radiologist or by the AI alone, but not by a combination of the radiologist with access to AI. It's still early days. We're going to need to understand how to optimize this human and AI partnership. The potential payoff, of course, should be faster and more accurate diagnosis and ultimately improved outcomes for patients. But this will require greater work. It'll require greater system design, and it'll require a lot of work on trust and adoption. Topic number 3, lots of news in generative AI. First, AWS, Amazon Web Service, announced the availability of HealthScribe, a new generative AI-powered service for creating clinical documentation. Apparently, it listens to physician-patient conversations during visits, and it creates draft documentation for review and editing. Second, the company Hippocratic AI announced yet more funding. Hippocratic AI came out of stealth mode in May with $50 million worth of seed funding from Andreessen Horowitz and from General Catalyst. It's a large language model for healthcare, interestingly not focused specifically on diagnosis, and they claim that their primary focus is safety. Hippocratic AI announced an additional $15 million in funding, plus the launching of its founding partner program, where it is involving a number of large US health systems and technology partners to improve its service. The important context here, I think, is that we're just in the beginning of all sorts of new generative AI announcements as it relates to clinical AI. The technology acceleration is certainly breathtaking, and because of that, we're going to see in parallel the emergence of lots of discussions about how to govern and manage generative AI. For example, just last week, on Friday, the White House announced voluntary commitments made by 7 leading AI companies in the US to manage risks associated with the emerging technology. Those companies, Amazon, Anthropic, Google, Inflection, Meta, Microsoft, and OpenAI, have all agreed to voluntary commitments for what they call responsible innovation in the areas of safety, security, and trust. The leaders of those companies appeared at the White House with President Biden, clearly looking to get news. The White House is also looking to put in place legal and regulatory frameworks for the development of artificial intelligence. This comes on the heels of, in April, the White House announcing a blueprint for an AI Bill of Rights. This AI Bill of Rights argued that Americans should have access to safe and effective systems that have protections against algorithmic discrimination, systems that protect their privacy, that provide notice and an explanation of how the data is going to be used, and systems that offer human alternatives when it's appropriate to opt out and have access to a person for making a decision. You may also have heard about CHAI, the Coalition for Health AI. CHAI is a group that includes, among others, Berkeley, Duke, Mayo Clinic, Google, Microsoft, and others. CHAI has announced its goal to develop guardrails and guidelines to drive high-quality healthcare by promoting the adoption of credible, fair, and transparent health AI systems. Also, in the last couple of weeks, Avia, the provider-sponsored consortium out of Chicago, announced that it was going to research and develop strategies for governing and making more useful artificial intelligence, generative artificial intelligence in healthcare. Avia is this provider-sponsored organization. Its mission is to enable healthcare organizations to achieve digital success with greater speed, discipline, and impact. But Avia recognized that generative AI is what they called a make or break opportunity for the healthcare industry. Their goal is to provide a playbook for boards of directors of healthcare systems. That playbook and a report that accompanies it will provide what they call actionable strategies to invest in and deploy AI in a way that benefits not just health systems and health system solution companies, but patients, clinicians, and caregivers. So at the end of the day, what does all of this mean, all of this news from the past week? For us, we can expect more and more product announcements. That's not new. We can expect more industry coalitions and commissions. That will be interesting to watch. We can expect more discussion by policymakers. That will be important because those decisions matter. But for us, our view is that ultimately what really matters is the safe, effective, and practical deployment of clinical AI. That's what we'll be looking at. That's what we're focused on. We hope you'll join us next week.